please like our video and subscribe to RotoWire. Then go to rotowire.com/pod for a free 10-day trial.
Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I'm Kelenic here with Todd Zola from RotoWire and Masters Ball. Good to have you with us on this Friday morning when we're recording here, Todd. Big news in my world. I have, in fact, shaved my head. Yeah, my COVID hair was a disgrace, and it just had to go. And I'm a bald man at 33. I'll probably bick it this weekend. Go full Big Show / Steve Austin. But you know,
you're gonna jump to another site. Is that what you're gonna do?
Oh no. I get the Big Show reference though. But you know, there are worse things in life than being bald at 33. So yeah.
Well, you did it by choice.
Yeah. Scott Van Pelt has mentioned, you know, you just get a certain point in life where there's no turning back, and it was just too long and stringy and thinned out, and you know, it was fun while it lasted.
Well, I got to get my cut. Whenever I tell the barber, the person with the clippers, number 2 all around, and they always say to me, even on top. I'm like, what are you trying to say? There, you know, there's not as much on top.
Holding out. Your hairline's doing well. Mine not so much. But Todd, you of course are the 2019 champion of TGFBI. I'm the 2018 champion, and I'm wondering, did you get your draft spot for this morning?
Yes, I did. Picking? I am picking in the 4 hole. I'm hitting cleanup.
Nice.
And I'm
was that your?
I went 1 to 15. I mean,
same here.
You know, I just this year of any year, just tell me where I'm picking, and yeah, you can try to figure out where you want to get your pitching, right? I mean, but it's just the way things flow. Yeah, just tell me where I'm drafting. The 4, you know, we've done enough. We've seen enough drafts. Where are you picking?
I'm picking 11th.
Ah, okay.
So I left mine 1 through 15 too, so not a very high priority.
Yeah, right.
It's not a bad spot either.
No, well, I don't think there is a bad spot.
No, there really isn't.
Especially this year. But so what you do, you know, you're hoping one of your top 6 or 7 falls to 11, and then when you're top 10, I'll go top, you know, 1 to 10. It's so, you know, I'm hoping, you know, is there a bad pick at 4? I really
don't think there is.
You know,
can't go wrong with any of those hitters or the top 2 pitchers. Tatis and Acuna and Betts. You know, if those go 3, I'm stuck with Trout or I'm stuck with Soto. I mean, man, that's such a rough life, huh? Too bad. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll hope that same. You know, I've seen Mookie fall once in a while. I don't see him falling. I don't see Tatis or Acuna falling. So if one of the top people wants DeGrom or Cole, I get a shot at Mookie at 4, but I don't think so. I'm probably I'm not going to go pitcher. I'll probably go Soto, I would think.
I like that. If he's there. Not a lock.
He's not. I'm really happy because that means they got Tatis, Acuna, or Betts.
That's true. Yeah.
So Betts is probably number 1.
Yeah. Betts, I mean, you just can't go wrong. I've seen some of those big money drafts that are going on right now, like the pitchers are coming off the board with the first few picks, and I kind of get it. I still think the best way for me to build a team is to go with one of those big 4 hitters, or big 5, or big 6, if you include Mike Trout or Trey Turner.
If we did a piece, and it's free up on ESPN, where the premise was Acuna, Trout, Tatis, Betts, and who am I forgetting? The other Soto are off the board. Who do you take at 6? Mm-hmm. And most of the staff said Trey Turner. Mm-hmm. And I would probably take Trey Turner, but just to get a little different perspective, I said, all right, you take a pitcher here. And I wrote up why you would take Garrett Cole in a head-to-head league and Jacob deGrom in a roto league. So mm-hmm. It's enough of a topic that if ESPN felt we felt it was enough of an audience to read about that. I mean, who cares? It's the first round. But I mean, so I guess the big five is what people are considering, and it's six is where it differentiates.
Yeah, I know some people may suggest that maybe we all, as a group, spend a little too much time on the first few rounds, but avoiding those landmines is so important. So, and yeah, you have to split hairs, and I think a guy like DeGrom, people are scared of a little bit just because of, I guess, like injury risk. But
they're making up reasons.
Yeah,
at this point, I'm not saying it's a shock. It's a shock take. But at this point, I think people are making up reasons to not do sort of things. So
I've heard Saris mention like injury risk percentiles, and Saris of The Athletic, that is, and maybe DeGrom showing up relatively high in those injury risk percentile marks. But at the same time, that all pitchers are injury risk, and we know when these guys are going right, I mean they're unmatched in terms of value.
Right, and he started late. He was an infielder, and he had some surgery. So I don't know. It's not linear. So I would rather. Everybody says I'd rather be 1 year too early than 1 year too late. Well, if you go by that motto, you're usually a lot of years too early. To get to that 1 year where you're too late. Yeah. It's not just 1 year. So if you've been saying that about Greinke for the past 5 years, you missed out. So it's like
Nelson Cruz,
I'd rather get the 3 or 4 years where it doesn't happen before I get burned by that 1 year it does. Mm-hmm. Silly example from a long time ago. Kevin Napier is going to get hurt because of that across the body motion. Well, we were right 14 years later, right? CC Sabathia. That there's no way he could pitch well with all that weight. Well, we were right 15 years later.
Yeah. After he'd slimmed down. And,
just in general. So
yeah, I know.
I know the party, and I'm the one that, to be honest, that's risk averse. But I think I don't want to say we're trying to be too smart, but I'll take the one mistake for David Ortiz when he finally comes down and get those 5 years where he didn't. So anyway,
a lot of your picks are going to bust. I mean, just inevitably. And
so yours, Clay. So are yours.
No, yeah, just a general you. But yeah, I've heard that a little bit. I was happy to get DeGrom at 8 overall in this FSGA draft that we'll talk about here in a bit. I'm picking 11th in mine, as I mentioned. I think I'm probably going to end up with Bieber. I feel like people are maybe just pumping the brakes a little bit because of the COVID diagnosis, him pitching in the AL Central, of course. So I imagine like Yelich will probably go in front of me, maybe Ramirez, and then that leaves me with Bieber. I have Bauer right behind him then, and so I expect to go with the pitcher, and then maybe Mondesi on the way back.
Yeah, you're in pocket aces territory if you don't want to do go Mondesi and then just you'll just power, right? You'll just get home run hitters the rest for the next 3 or 4 picks.
Yeah,
until Guerrero comes on the board, so then you'll just go for the batting average.
I'll get that batting average filled up with him, but in Mondesi I'd probably not taken like a standalone league, but since chasing that overall and 400 some teams now. Yeah, maybe more. I don't even remember, but I'd probably swing with Mondesi. He may be gone, but I do expect to get at least one of those pitchers in the first round. If Jose Ramirez or Christian Yelich make it, I could see it. But I do expect in the TGFBI that'll be fun. I think that starts on Monday.
It starts on Monday. A lot starting up on Monday. Yeah, it starts on Monday.
What else starts on Monday?
The Tout Wars Draft and Hold League.
Awesome.
With our own James Anderson with the first pick. And
did he win last year?
No, what we do is we have a modified KDS.
I see. Okay.
And the person who wins gets to choose their spot. It was really weird. It went like 5, 6, 8, 2, 4, 3, 4. I mean, James had like the 8th honor, right? He was the 8th person I talked to, and he took the number 1 spot. That's just the way I think it's interesting. And keeping in mind, too, this is an OBP league. And we're talking about the Big Four. In an OBP league, Trout and Soto separate themselves.
I bet James takes Soto.
I was going to say, I'd be curious. Now, we're going to have him live on the air. Jeff and I'm filling in for List next week on Sirius. So Jeff and I are going to talk to James live and make the pick live on air. Oh, that's sweet. Interesting. Yeah. Whether I don't know what I would do. I don't know what I would do because Soto wants to run, right? And if he's going to run, huh? But
if he runs,
because he says so. But anyway, so tune in Monday at 1 p.m. ET, and we're going to talk to James about the first pick in the draft and hold. Then the Tuesday, we're doing our very first 12-team mix using innings pitched for wins and saves plus holds for saves. So that starts Tuesday. Well, not starts. That's going to be on the air Tuesday afternoon.
Sweet. And it was a couple days before that, Sunday, just a couple days away from now, games start up. It really kind of hit me the other day. Like, I'm going to be able to watch Cal Quantrill, who I've drafted everywhere, against the Reds on Sunday. I think it's Cal Quantrill, Tristan McKenzie. I think it was Mandy Bell tweeted out the list of Cleveland's pitchers that are pitching against the Reds. It's hard for me to believe. I asked my dad, he lives in Jupiter, Florida, if they were selling spring training tickets. I guess they're just impossible to come by. Limited availability and demand, obviously, and it's just crazy.
Yeah, no, it kind of hit me too. We plant Tout Wars. We purposely waited till March 1st to start these things. I mean, if they're going to play games, they're not going to cancel the spring. I mean, or they're going to post. At this point, I think who knows what could happen, to be honest, right? But we think they're past the point of no return, and that's why we started these drafts when we did. They could still negotiate other rules changes, but it's interesting. We haven't heard any. You mentioned Bieber, Jose Abreu, right, with COVID diagnosis.
COVID too, yeah.
There have been a couple, but the leagues I'm in, I don't know about what leagues you're in. The leagues I'm in that had COVID rules last year, the private leagues, we're kind of voted to continue them having an extended IL, the ability to replace a COVID player right away, things that maybe we didn't have before. It's still out there. We're hoping we don't have to use the list as much. But, people are just now starting to get vaccinated, herd immunity, all that stuff. So, yeah, there could be a shutdown of a team like there was with the Cardinals and the Marlins last year. We, knock on wood, hope not. But, look at the other sports other than Canadian hockey. It's happening.
Exactly. I think because games are starting up, I think the start time for opening day just has to remain locked in because I don't think you can have these guys stretching out and warming up their arms and then pause again. I think, other rule changes may come, but I think the start time for the season is pretty well locked in at this point.
Yeah.
It was Mandy Bell of MLB.com, by the way. Yeah. Cal Quantrill, Tristan McKenzie, James Karinchak, Brian Shaw, and Heath Hembry, a former Boston guy. Scheduled to pitch against the Reds. That'll be interesting. Karinchak and Quantrill, I said in my FSGA draft review that he's kind of being treated as fool's gold by the market. Maybe I'm the fool.
With Quantrill?
Yeah, if you can't spot the fool in the room, maybe it's you. But I know that his success with Cleveland came mostly in the bullpen last year, but I'm kind of excited about him. I'm not ready to write him off at 26, even though the track record is a little underwhelming. Do you find yourself interested in drafting Cal Quantrill?
Yeah, maybe a little bias here. I'll tell a quick story. We have him we do the XFL, and we have a March reserve draft where we can draft reserves and minors. It's a modified dynasty keeper league. And I had one of the early picks, and I wanted Casey Mize in that spot. But I was doing some research for my next pick, and I was going through the RotoWire page of Cal Quantrill. And what we do is we type the names in a Google sheet. So I wanted Casey Mize, but I typed in Cal Quantrill because that was in my stupid brain. And 3 or 4 picks later, Doug Dennis typed in Casey Mize.
Ouch.
I'm like, what? Now, and Ron Chandler is the head of the league. I'm kind of the SWAT, believe it or not. So I couldn't go back and say, I really wanted Casey Mize. If had somebody else said it, we probably would have allowed it.
I respect that you didn't do that. I really do.
So I've been rooting for Cal Quantrill. Now, I think I dropped him from my farm roster, so at this point it doesn't matter. So I guess what I'm rooting for now is for Casey Mize to be terrible. No, I'm really not. That's a list move right there. But So I am interested. I think we've got. I mean, I'm not going to ask the question. I think it's a statement. We've gotten to the point where we're interested in yes, we can still say Indians, but I'll get out of the habit. Cleveland pitchers, because they're in Cleveland, Tampa, San Diego, and it's not just the parks, because Cleveland's not a very good park to pitch in, but there's something about the organization, the ability to figure out what the pitcher does well and focus on that, what pitch he throws well, focus on that, and get rid of the trash that doesn't work so well. I think Cleveland has earned that reputation. So I haven't looked as much into Quantrill. I think I need to do a little bit of a deeper dive, but I guess it's because in my head he's not definitely part of the rotation. I probably should look into that as well to see if
he may not be. I don't know either. If he's a middle reliever, obviously he's a quick drop, but and you don't love to be dropping your reserves, but it ends up happening regularly. And he 8 appearances, only 2 starts. It was only 14 2/3 with Cleveland down the stretch, but he performed really well, and the walk rate was really low. And you expect some give back there, but 95 mile per hour fastball, slider about 10 miles per hour below that, and we'll see if he's got enough swing and miss to really be a mixed league type of guy who's actually like a net positive. But I was happy I got him. I did want to circle back on the KDS thing. You and I both for TGFBI left it 1 through 15.
Right.
It sounds like most of those people in the tout draft and hold really didn't want that number one pick, which surprises me. Am I underthinking this? Like, should I be? I know you said like just tell me where I'm picking. That's kind of how I am too. But should we maybe change our stance on this if so many people are, putting so much thought into this, or am I wrong to think like, isn't the whole point of like ranking players like, oh, I want Ronald Acuna the most of anybody? Like, don't you want the top player on your cheat sheet?
Yes. Now the caveat is, I think
roster
it's more important. Well, yes, but the even more granular is pitching, and taking one of the top 2 or 3. Where are you going to be for pitching? You're hoping Aaron Nola falls or Louis Castillo falls. I mean, you're probably going to get a good pitcher, but you may want a better pitcher. Does that mean you now have to take your pitcher first and give up the Acuna or the TTs to the Betts? That's a tough one. So the only reason I would think to take a later pick is to sort of assure yourself you get a little bit better pitcher in that point. I'm not worrying. If I were to get number 1, I'm not going to worry about it. I would take the huge advantage we have in hitting and make the pitching work. Bully hitting, manage pitching. Mm-hmm. So you can still, obviously you can still get it done. It may be Zach Gallen who leads your staff off and not Lucas Giolito. Mm-hmm. But it's still a good pitcher, and you can double tap the pitching at that 1 or 2 hole. I wouldn't do that myself, but there are options to do it. I don't know. We'll be talking to the participants all week long. We can curious. We'll ask James if he had the first choice. Would he have taken number 1?
I know he doesn't like that spot as far as setting his KDS. He has I think 8 or something as his number 1.
Right. Well, we'll see if it's different in OBP, but True. We'll see. But he did not hesitate when those middle. Well, maybe because the middle picks are gone, and he'd rather have 1 than 15. But I don't know. I
just think it's kind of interesting. Like KDS strategy is kind of like just something I don't spend a ton of bandwidth processing. I get that, for roster construction purposes, it may be better, but yeah, I just think ideally I want to build around Ronald Acuna Jr., Tatis, Soto. That's how I want to start. And then, if Zach Gallen's my number 1, that's fine. I think my most successful year came when I took Aaron Nola in the 4th. I think you can get your ace just outside of that ace range if you're if you're patient and know what you're doing.
Right now, you didn't. And my TGFBI year, I had Nola as well in the second round, and it was Clevenger in the fourth.
Nice.
And I didn't take Clevenger and say he's going to be an ace. But so you say you make smart picks and the ace. It's rare that you take your 6th round pick in the back of your mind going, I just got an ace.
Yeah.
But you're picking someone with good skills that could become an ace. I mean, that we could, that's a future talk is who outside of the 3rd round is going to who has the most likely chance to jump and be a first rounder next year. Looking through the pitchers that are drafted in that range, is Dinelson Lamet, does he stay healthy? He would be an option. Things like that. That would be an interesting topic. But yeah, my KDS at this point, and I know actually it was asked about this from Tout Wars when we're talking about the draft order is their best spot, and on paper, number 1 is best, just because if you go through historical draft values and assign us earnings per spot, the top spot has the most projected earnings. But it never works out that way, right? Mm-hmm. Baseball, just weird things happen. So if you look at the NFBC or the TGFBI, where there are several leagues so you can do this, you have enough of a sample you can do this. Every year, yes, there's a spot or a spot of the draft that's the sweet spot. Sometimes it's 9 to 11 or 4 to 6. The problem is it's different every year. Mm-hmm. So unless you get a DeLorean and a flux capacitor, you're not going to know. I mean, the answer is after the fact. Yes, there was a best spot to choose from, but we don't know what it is because every year it's different. True. That's kind of the part about it. So I'm not. I used to spend. I used to do mocks and this and that and try to figure out the best KDS, maybe because I don't do the main event anymore and therefore it's not quite as relevant. To me, it's not as relevant in the RotoWire 12 teamer just because you're going to get in the 24th pitcher, if you get Trout or Acuna number 1 Betts, you get a better chance of getting Nola, than in the 15 team league. So to me, it's not so much less important, but you can build just as easily from number 1. But, if you like the wheel, I can see that. If you like the middle and you don't want to get caught up in runs, I can see taking it, taking that pick. I kind of like the wheel for a few different reasons, so I don't mind taking it. But I sometimes go 1 to 3, 1 to 3, then 15 to 11 or something like that. This year, just give me, especially early on. First of all, any of the top 5, like we talked about, are really good. But if you're a safe guy and you've got Mike Trout, safe gal, if you got Mike Trout 2 or 3, you're going to get him at 5 or 6. So why not?
I hear you. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I guess it just kind of, in my head, it kind of goes counter to like ranking players. Like if you want to pick 9th so you can get Trey Turner, why don't you have Trey Turner ranked like, 4th or something? I don't know. I just I get that the roster construction, it plays into things, and maybe you feel like, that 12 to 17 range is just, you could be 2 better players there, sure. But I think the 18 to 24, 18 to 30 is I mean, I have my picks in that range, but I don't think you can really go all that wrong there. So like guys on the way back, like I mean Kershaw, you can maybe get if you go with one of those hitters early. Nola, you mentioned maybe Luis Castillo. Jack Flaherty, I still believe in. I know Rob Silver's less of a believer in Flaherty, but I still like him. I just think he can do just fine. So I didn't mess with my KDS. But I'm looking forward to hearing where everybody's picking, and looking forward to seeing how drafts shake out on Monday. Real quick word from our friends over at Otto New Fantasy Baseball is the next level fantasy baseball challenge you've been looking for. Experience a year-round dynasty competition with deep rosters. Accumulate prospects to lead your team in the future or to move for a superstar at the trade deadline. Keep your baseball mind engaged in the offseason with trades and arbitration. Learn more about why everyone who plays Otto New becomes addicted at OttoNewBaseball.com. That's OTTONEU baseball.com. Otto New, better fantasy baseball. Todd, not a lot of news today. Not a lot
So let's talk about our Ottavino draft that we did this past week.
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
I'm just saying it tongue in cheek. But
I have to set my lineup this year.
Yeah, I'm with you, pal.
Did not.
I'm with you, pal.
I gave up on that league because, I mean, it's a slippery slope in a daily league when you miss like several days in a row. You're like, what's the point? I'm not gonna make it up. So this year, turning a fresh page, and I plan on setting my lineup.
The one catch is there's 100, knock on wood, there's 180 days or 182 days in the season, and there's 162 maximum number of games per position. Mm-hmm. So you have 20 I forgot days built in.
That's true.
But that's 20 fewer days where you can judge if you just look at your lineup a particular day and said, my catchers just have terrible matchups. Mm-hmm. So I'm not even going to have a catcher active today, which you can't do that that's just, you can do that here. So we have 20 days where we can forget and not have it go against us as far as the games go, but it does take away our ability to manage a team.
Yeah, so. I enjoy the format. I enjoy playing at Ottavino. I just have to be better about that because
you and me both.
It's just in season the daily lineup moves leagues just are a lot of work, and so I have to dedicate myself to that. That was pretty fun. Who was your big ticket item, if you remember? Right?
I'm going to be honest, and this isn't an excuse. It's just a fact. I inadvertently planned two auctions that night.
Yeah, that's right.
So I was doing an NFBC. It's not a big money auction. It's the yearly Beat Tom, Greg, and Derek auction. A little private that gets set up. I've never done this auction because for years I was doing so much NFB. I didn't want to take the spot of somebody who wanted to join it. I didn't think that was right. But I'm not doing a whole lot, and usually it fills up like in a day. It'd been 3 or 4 or 5 days. You know what? I'm going to jump in. I got $50. I'm going to jump into this one. Mm-hmm. So it was my first time in the Greg, Tom, and Derek auction. So, but I completely forgot about it when
it's all washed together. I get that. Mine was like George Springer at 31.
Yeah,
nothing too exciting.
I had players at almost every position. So I think I went heavier on the pitching and the closers. There weren't that many out there.
No, there weren't.
Now so people know, 12-team league, there are 5 relief pitcher spots, and it's starting pitcher, relief pitcher, and this one's the 5x5. I'm in another one that's points, so it doesn't matter as much because the relievers can get points. So we're already, you're already scrambling for closers. When you have to start 60, when there's 60 relief spots available, you're starting non-closers. So now do you get the ratio guys? Do you get guys that can potentially get saves, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? But I didn't have very good relievers, or I didn't have a lot of saves. So I tried to get the guys that have a fighting chance at some saves and then just back them up. And people know it's a very long reserve list. So you can buy cheap players that you're never going to use them, but if you get them cheap, it's a kind of keeper dynasty league. And the way the contracts accelerate, it's not the standard, +5, whatever. At the end of the year, they call it arbitration. We all get to add $1, $2, or $3 to the contracts of everybody else in the league. You have to do like between 1 and 3 of everybody per team. And I don't remember, you have like $50 or whatever, $20, whatever it is. It has to be more than 20. Whatever it is, you have an X amount of money you can add distributed to the team. So if you drafted some guy for $5 and he's now a $30 player, we're all going to your team and going +2, +1. So by the end of the draft, he's 17. He doesn't quite get to 25, but now he's a $35 player, and the next year we're all adding +1, +3, or whatever to do that. And then once at some point it just becomes cost prohibitive, or if it gets into the 40s, like it's a lot of money. I'd rather he can pay if he wants to pay 45 for Soto. Good on him. I'm not going to add another 3. I'm going to put my 3 on one of his cheap guys. So it's kind of it's an interesting format, and it's through Fangraphs. We are friends at Fangraphs. It's let's say it. It's a rather archaic setup, but it gets the job done.
Yeah, I mean, once you get used to it, it's a lot of fun, and because we have those 5 designated relief pitcher spots, a lot of those setup guys, they get pushed up a little bit. I was happy to land like Jake McGee. But even like Jonathan Hernandez got pushed up to 6. And like Anthony Bass, 7. Josh Stallman, I got at 6. But, you just have to have a little left over to get those guys when you have to fill RP spots.
Yep.
So I was happy to do that. TJ Antone, another Cal Quantrill. We'll see. I got Matt Boyd. It wasn't that exciting for me. Jamer Candelario.
Yep.
Leody Taveras. But I do like my chances if CJ Crone at 6. I was surprised he didn't get pushed up more. But I was happy with that. Yeah, I do like this format. I also got Gregory Soto, who I kind of like to close in Detroit. I also did want to talk to you a little bit, Todd, about this FSGA draft. Thanks to Jeff Erickson for the invite, handing over the spot. It's the FSGA Champions League. And I mentioned I drafted 8th and got DeGrom. Then Giolito. I did want to ask you, though, because I said this in my draft review, which is up, by the way, and you don't even need a trial subscription. It's just completely free on the site. I said that I think I kind of wasted this Ozzie Albies pick in the 3rd round in the end because I feel like I wasted his speed, and I just didn't add enough to that foundation. I took him over some boppers like Springer, Devers, and your boy Marcell Ozuna. And I did want to get that speed foundation, but then I just think I didn't add enough to it. Would you agree with that when you look at this roster?
Champions League, huh? Well, they don't have all the former champions in it. But anyway.
I don't know why it's called that, honestly, because I've never.
No, it's all good. No, Lar and I won it like in 2016.
Oh, nice.
And then I stopped going to the FSGA, at the time FSTA meetings, because I stopped having to beg for work. And everybody, it wasn't live this year, but everybody in the draft would have represented their company live. And I'm being silly. Well, I'm basically vamping while I'm taking a look at the rest of your roster. I think the mindset when you double tap, double ace, whatever, aces, 2 aces, ace, what do they call it? Pocket aces, is you feel you have to make up for the speed. So sometimes you make the pick almost Pavlovian without really thinking it through. It's just in your head. If I go, and
I need some speed.
Yeah, because I got to catch up because I'm not going to be able to catch up later. Yeah. Well, if I recall correctly, maybe they changed it, but it's a trading league. It's modified. You can only make X amount of trades with each, so 2 people don't make trades all the time together, but you can make trades, but you're limited to the number of trades. I thought it was a silly rule, but I think it was no trading, and this was the compromise, just to make, to at least have trading in there. I mean, you don't have a lot of other speed.
Yeah.
You got Colton Wong.
That's about it. Ian Happ will steal a few bags.
Wong.
Conforto might steal a few bags.
I mean, Garcia lost weight. I don't know. Did you see the post where I think DVR, Derek Van Riper, put it up there? He was lamenting being the fanboy account for the Brewers for the day because a lot of good news came out of Brewers camp. But Garcia, who already had like 81st percentile sprint speed, or as I wrote in the thing, spring speed, he
slimmed down, right?
Yeah, slimmed down. So yeah, my tweets, they were joking. I thought you should have left it at spring speed. Well, if you're going to start paying for my tweets, I want to get the words right. Saying completely tongue in cheek.
You'll start charging Lord Zola.
Yeah, I know. I think I will be leaving my tweets for free, but that kind of broke Twitter yesterday. Their announcement about that. But I mean, I've heard people, and you made a reference to it in your piece with Moncada, that they're shying away from Moncada because they feel he's distracted with the music, etc. I mean, is that just something to talk about in the end of February, or anything to be worried about?
I think it's mostly just talk, although they are kind of slowing him down a little bit. He's not throwing. That's a little worrisome. I'm not really concerned. They say he's usually like sore early in camp.
Yeah.
I hope he runs a little bit. We'll see. The X factor here with speed is maybe Kelenic. Jared Kelenic. I don't know how much exactly he'll run. I'm confident the battle play, though. And it's kind of one where, like, I took him in the 15th round. It seemed like everybody was like, and I get that you're probably going to have to wait a little bit, but maybe not with this whole situation. What do you make of that deal there, Kevin Mather, in Seattle, and could that affect guys like Kelenic?
Well, as everybody is saying, it's nothing we didn't already know.
Yeah.
It's just out there, right?
He said the quiet part out loud. Yeah.
And the thing, he actually said it out loud when he said it. Now it gets reported because it was recorded and put out on social media. It was at a booster function or whatever. It wasn't they didn't secretly tape an office meeting. This was a fan meeting or whatever that he said it at. So there's all sorts of rumors what may or may not go on. Is he now not going to sign with the team long term? Most of the time these things settle themselves over time, but maybe they don't have him steal to keep his arbitration salary down, right? Are you worried about that? I'm just saying that tongue in cheek.
But he'll probably steal more just to rub in their faces,
spite him, right? Yeah, just to spite him. But
not like blistering speed. We can steal a few bags.
It's out there. But the other part about it though is, if nothing else, it's now more front and center on the CBA, isn't it? Because this is one of the things that the players wanted to change. And I understand to a certain extent that you pay, and not just sports, anything. Your salary grade is a combination of how good you are at your job and how long you've been doing it. It's in technology, it's teachers, it's everything. So it's part of it. Now, the part about it, and there's some people on Twitter, in the industry, out of the industry, saying it's bad for baseball to not have the best players playing. But tomorrow, so-and-so will tweet, it's bad for baseball that these teams can't keep these guys long term. They have to run it. You can't have it both ways. You can't say Seattle should be playing Kelenic tomorrow or opening day, and then in 5 years or 6 years saying Seattle should not have traded Kelenic. They should have tried. It was one or the other. Now that's what the CBA is all about, trying to find that compromise where both can occur.
Sure.
Where the player can play and he can still be signed or whatever. Now, a lot of it too is, the teams can afford these contracts, but they just don't want to. So that's a different story. But I'm not concerned about Kelenic. I do think that it will only be one day after he's ready. I don't think they'll keep him down there.
Just has to work on his defense for one day beyond the cutoff for that extra year.
There's certain behind the scenes things they can do as far as, next year, the contract being X amount of dollars. If you don't complain about being sent down, there's things that can be done.
Don't file a grievance, maybe.
Right. Yeah. There's the way to buy out of the grievance without going public. Well, unless the guy in a public forum says this is what we did, but I don't think I think the new Seattle regime will be smart enough, and there are now 29 other people who host these, public forum events that are not going to get so loose-lipped.
Yeah, I've just heard people talking like maybe this whole thing forces the Mariners' hand, and like just for PR purposes, they kind of can't keep Kelenic down. So we'll see. I think either way, he comes up and is a stud right away. Brady Singer was another guy I got in the 19th round, and then you always love when you draft a guy, then they pop up on a Bloom board from Ryan Bloomfield, and Brady Singer did that. Ground balls galore, limiting hard contact, and pretty good K- walk. I forget exactly the parameters for Ryan Bloomfield's latest Bloom board, but I did see Brady Singer there, and it's good. He held his own. The numbers maybe don't excite you too much, but pitching in that division, I think Brady Singer is a pretty nice pick. Where do you stand on him?
No, absolutely. He's in the streaming range. I like him a little more. Here we go again. It took us half an hour. If there's an NLDH, I like him a little more because with that, it doesn't affect him, but it hurts his
gap.
Right, exactly. Yeah. The NL pitchers in that range, are now pushed either down below him. So I don't think it matters for the top tier, but I think it matters a little bit lower. You don't love Kauffman Stadium to pitch in because it is people think you do, but it is a hitter's park slightly. Really? But it's not a big deal. But you're right. You get Detroit. You get plenty of opportunities. Now, what you got him in the
19th.
Oh yeah, so it's streaming range, absolutely. And you actually got Kikuchi next.
Yeah, and in my write-up, I said Kikuchi's like the most obvious quote-unquote sleeper in recent memory. It seems like, we all look at the same things, and it seems like he should be going so much higher than he is. And you'll see him on a lot of like sleeper lists. Oh, I like him, but he's still sitting there in most leagues. And the velocity bump, he pitches in a pretty favorable division too. A lot of good parks to pitch in there. And I just feel like he's primed to, maybe not break out, quote unquote, and be like a star, but a 330 FIP last year, everything checks out really well. And that velocity bump makes me think it's somewhat sustainable. Yeah,
I'm looking to see where Brent and Ray, because they're
probably they were not happy, I don't think.
Right. Well, they had an opportunity. They drafted Mauricio Dubon in the previous round. So, would you rather have Dubon or Kikuchi? If pushy comes to shovey, and they drafted Eflin and Gonsolin several rounds previous to that. So they had their chances. I wouldn't lose any sleep over it, Clay. It may have been a snipe, but they had opportunities, and they drafted Gallegos. So they're trolling for saves, and then Hector Neris right afterwards. So they had opportunities, but they were leading the Kikuchi bandwagon. But maybe they thought they could sneak him down one more round. And, sometimes you play chicken and you lose. Chris Bassett, who you also received. The only concern, I love Bassett. My only concern with Bassett is if Oakland does go to a six-man rotation, he would lose a couple. But you're in the range where, you go from 32 to 26 starts, and you're streaming him anyway, and it hurts, but to me it's not quite as much as if one of your top 3 or 4 pitchers has decided to go in a 6-man, and to me that hurts a little bit more.
Yeah, Bassett was really good last year. Not a ton of strikeout upside with him, but he's just a steady performer, and maybe the 6-man would hurt. Very few 2-star weeks if that were the case, but at the same time, I expect that with a lot of pitchers. So I don't really expect that to be like that much out of the norm. Edwin Rios, I got. I'm still stubbornly holding out hope for the NLDH.
Yeah,
Lucas Sims. There are a lot of spec closers taken. Trevor May in the 24th, even like Garrett Crochet, and then Sims falls all around to the 28th. And it seems like this elbow stuff has really scared people off with Lucas Sims.
Right, and they've got the Reds have now got Sean Doolittle along with Amir Garrett. So I don't consider Doolittle a threat. Personally, I still think it's Sims or Garrett, but I can see why others might be a little bit slower on the uptake to trust Lucas Sims. But fine. And then you may have gotten Jonathan Scope in the last pick.
Yeah.
So you got one. If you decide I just don't need steals because it's not going to help me, you just take Wong out and you put Scope in.
Yep. I think it might be better for me to just bully those other categories, honestly.
Yeah, and you might be able to get something for Wong.
Yeah.
Because
maybe get some. Yeah, I just think that with the speed, I don't see myself finishing higher than like 10th as is, and I could have made up those 4 standing points and then some elsewhere, perhaps.
We'll see. And also, like you said, it is a trading league, so there's plenty of time.
I mentioned Jake McGee earlier, and there was a quote a few days ago from Gabe Kapler about him being a, quote, nice candidate to save games for us. I do kind of like him. It was, quote, a nice candidate to close games for us from Alex Pavlovic of NBC Sports Bay Area. I just think he's flying under the radar. I like him. And then Adam Ottavino, you're very familiar with that team and you're in tune with them. Do you see it being Ottavino or Matt Barnes? Do you have a pick, or do you have any insight on that?
No, I think that I just have seen Barnes pitch enough, and the two things you don't want out of your closer are walks and home runs. Mm-hmm. And he's guilty of both. So I don't know if Alex Cora is going to make it an open competition, but if I think it's probably 60-40 that Ottavino wins the job. So I'm willing to take that chance, and he gets sometimes I mix them up in my head with Zach Britton, and that was even before they pitched in the same team. And Britton doesn't get the strikeouts, but Ottavino does. So once I remind myself that Ottavino gets strikeouts, then I'm fine using him regardless.
Yeah, he can strike out Babe Ruth. I always say that terrible joke, but I do think it's funny that he said that. I think the stuff could strike out Babe Ruth, but Ottavino needs to put it where he wants and put it in the strike zone more consistently. I wanted to ask you about the Padres closer situation because Drew Pomeranz in this league. I'm trying to look where he went. He went in the 19th round, and then Mark Melancon. Actually, he went in the 11th round. And I was listening to Rates and Barrels recently, and it sounds like Eno Saris was pretty much on the Pomeranz side. I think Melancon's probably the number one choice because you kind of box him in, then you leave Pomeranz more flexible. But do you think maybe the gap between these two shouldn't be so great?
With closers, it depends on what we know. As we know, it's the manager's whim of the manager, not looking at skills. And Melancon's one of those guys. It's got the guile. He checks that guile box, right? Because even in the day, in the day, he would strike out a batter an inning. But that's not that high for closing. But it's a little bit below that, although it bounced back a bit. I think Melancon closes, and I don't think I'd rather have Pomeranz on my Stratomatic team because I like his skills better. But I think Melancon closes. I don't think if you're the Padres and you're going to be competing against the Dodgers, if you're trying to sign a good reliever to help your bullpen, you sign someone better than Melancon. Mm-hmm. And they were out there. The only reason you sign Melancon is to close.
Yeah,
I think
anyway. Closer.
And I don't.
With
does he get
experience? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Does he get 35 or 40? Especially a team that kind of like the A's, they make closers out of their better bullpen guys, right? They accelerate, but they promote and they grow through the system, and they become the closers that way. That's what Kirby Yates did. So, yeah, 65 to 70%. If I'm doing the percentages, Melancon gets that percentage of the saves, and Pomeranz, Pagan get a handful here and there. But I like Melancon as a second closer, or maybe a late second closer. I think he's going to be. I don't like him because the skills aren't that great, but I think San Diego's going to get him to close.
Yeah, again, I feel like just shoring up that ninth just allows your flexibility with everybody else, and I think that's what they want. So, yeah, I do kind of like him, too. I obviously respect Eno and love what he does. I just disagreed with him on that one. I just see Pomeranz being the clear second fiddle there. One last thing I wanted to ask you about, Todd. Yesterday, David Bell, the Reds, confirmed that Nick Senzel would be the everyday center fielder. We'll see about that. I was readjusting our batting orders for the site, and we added back interleague and we removed the DH from the NL default orders, and I was wondering, how do these pieces fit for the Reds if there is no DH? I know they like Shogo's on-base skills. They were batting him atop the order a lot last year, but it seems like Shogo may be the one squeezed, and he probably doesn't deserve everyday playing time realistically. But with this endorsement from David Bell, does this move the needle at all for you on Senzel, or are you skeptical?
Well, first, you kind of joked about it, but I think the everyday center fielder, the everyday part is the issue, and not he's hurt so much. So long term, my point being, just because opening day Senzel's leading off and playing center, we don't know that it'll be that way all season long. Mm-hmm. But does it move the needle? Sure. Just because one of the flaws of valuation when we put our projections into a formula, it assumes everybody's playing, every day, or it assumes that that one person occupies the roster spot all year. So, on a per game basis, his ranking is better anybody that's hurt than on a per season basis. So yeah, it does move the needle He's another guy that's coming off it was only, well, I can't even say, well, 77 plate appearances. He's coming off a down season, as it were. But does he run? That's where the fantasy allure is going to come in. I mean, he's going to run into a few homers. Is Senzel going to run? Do you have him at the top of the batting order?
We do now. I actually initially had Shogo, their default against righties without the DH. But Senzel's sprint speed actually 97th percentile last year. I didn't realize that. I do worry a little bit about him, though, because, if you're going up against so many righties in that NL Central, I think they have, 3 lefties in the entire division or something? Maybe they want to get Shogo in there, just to have that platoon edge. Obviously, with Senzel, he's a right-handed hitter, so maybe the Reds want to maximize that platoon edge and give him some days off, give Jesse Winker some time out of the field. That could help. I think maybe the DH solves all this, but you're right about Senzel incorporating that replacement level value into it. I haven't really been on him this spring, but I'm not ready to give up on this guy. It's just we've been waiting, and something isn't there. Some piece of the puzzle right now is missing with Senzel.
Right. Well, he hasn't been in the field long enough to show what he can do. I'm taking a quick look, and I think Jesse Winker could earn the leadoff spot in the spring.
Yeah, I think he'd be a good fit there too.
Yeah.
So base skills, power.
And then I know Joey Votto's falling, but do you put him second? Because or now do you where do you go in the 2-hole? Because there's a bunch of, I'm not even going to say a bunch of 3 through 6 hitters. There's a bunch of 5 and 6 hitters in this lineup. Mm-hmm. I know that's not fair. Castellanos is probably worthy of a higher spot, but
you're right. It's the top of the order is hard to figure out.
Yeah,
they don't have an ideal leadoff man.
Right. So, well, actually, Winker could be. If I don't, to me, ideal is getting on base.
Yeah,
it's not always running.
He's not like speedy, but yeah, no, I know.
So I could see, Winker and Votto, and then those are 2 lefties. So you want to get a righty in there, so you put Suarez third and Castellanos. It's not ideal for facing relievers just to go lefty, righty, but there are ways to where, and that doesn't even have Senzel in there. So he's definitely now in my 4th and 5th outfielder range, whereas before he was reserve.
Yeah, would you take Jared Kelenic over him? 'Cause I think I probably would.
Yes, I would. Even in the NFBC main event with his fab, just we keep saying, well, you're going to have injured guys. If you've got 4 injured guys by the end of April, you're in trouble. So so
in trouble anyway.
I think by the time you'll know soon enough that he becomes one of your regulars, that would be Kelenic, and so that move I probably would make. I mean, it's a little unfair because Senzel had some pretty big prospect pedigree when he came up too.
Absolutely.
So we're it's almost we're trusting the prospect we haven't seen over the prospect that's been a little snake bit with injuries.
That's true. So, yeah, I mean, that shine is kind of worn off in a hurry with Senzel, but I'm still holding out hope. I just don't know if maybe next year is the year I'll be in on him. I just don't see myself, with guys like Kelenic on the board, I don't see myself ending up with him just since I haven't already, the way drafts have gone. The other piece of news that caught my eye was Shohei Ohtani touching 97 in his bullpen session. That's he's going to be throwing 97. You have to feel pretty good about him. We'll see.
Wasn't it like 90 a week ago?
Yeah, it was. Everybody was a little concerned, and then we shouldn't be putting too much stock into radar gun readings at this point.
Yeah,
they got time to ramp things up.
It may, it may have been take it easy, and let's see how you recover.
I think that's probably it. I mean, plus just ease into things.
Yeah, or he won a side bet that he bet, he bet Trout that he could hit 97. After throwing 90, so he sandbagged him. Yeah.
I like it. Well, anything else you want to mention today before we sign off, Todd?
Yeah, we kind of alluded to it. Next week, check it out. Tout Wars is starting, and happy to replace filling in for Liz. So that's going to be looking forward to talking to Jeff all week on the on the show, and then you and James on Friday. So I'm going to get hoarse by the end of the week.
And I look forward to talking with you on MLB Network Radio tomorrow as well. Their spring training tour at MLB Network Radio is continuing, so we'll be touching on the Dodgers tomorrow, and look forward to that. Hope you'll join us next week here on the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast.
Please like our video and subscribe to RotoWire. Then go to rotowire.com/pod for a free 10-day trial.